Peace to the family. Every day on the internet and social media platforms, I'm seeing a disdain and an argument between African Americans, African Caribbeans, Afro-Europeans, and Africans on the continent of Africa. I recently saw a video on a woman's platform where she was expressing her opinion. So today I'm going to give my opinion. For the most part, there has become a new phenomenon of persons that are calling themselves foundational Black Americans, American descendants of Africans, Pan-Africanists, and so forth, a few other names. So in this lady's video, she was talking about, perceived problems between African Americans and, quote, foundational Black Americans. To the degree and to the extent that there is an assertion that Native Africans are disrespectful to African Americans, Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, however you term that particular group. And I want to share my experience on that. I've traveled to several African nations and lived in Cote d'Ivoire, or the English translation, Ivory Coast, for about 7-8 years, and I worked as an ESL professor. And I was amazed, and this is Francophone West Africa, or the West African countries that were colonized by the French. And my students had and these are young people, young people, 18, 17, 19, 20 years old. I also taught adult business leaders as well. But their knowledge of African Americans was superb. I have a friend that works with youth and young adults here in Atlanta, and he told me some of these young people here, they have no clue to who Martin Luther King Jr. is. And I'm just surprised about that. But I looked at a picture one day of former leader of Haiti, Jean-Claude Duvalier, known as Papa Doc. And Papa Doc had a picture of Martin Luther King on his desk. So other countries respect our leaders. But back to these children in Cote d'Ivoire. They knew about Billie Holiday, Strange Fruit. They knew about lynchings in America. They knew about Josephine Baker and her involvement with the resistance in France in World War II. I had some students that were going to the University of Birmingham and the University of Wolverhampton in the United Kingdom. And this was before the movie of the 6888 came out. I had them to research Birmingham, England, and they found this company of women soldiers in World War II. This is before the movie, of course. So that totally debunks that myth that Africans don't know about African American history and we're not looked up to by African people. I will say that when you meet some African people in the United States, they're totally different than their brothers and their sisters and their kinfolk that are still on the continent. The sister also said that Africans work harder. They think that African Americans are lazy. Well, I had a conversation with a Jamaican brother one time. And what we don't understand is that they have political parties and political ideologies as well. This Jamaican brother, he was under the assumption that, FBAs, Black Americans, African Americans, received welfare and food stamps. And a lot of Caribbean people are jealous because their government doesn't provide that for them. I say, basically the phenomena of food stamps, that's a relative new introduction to Black American life. I would say probably starting in the 70s and the 80s. And the fact of the matter is that not all African Americans, and I would dare say that most African Americans, never have received public assistance until late in the game. Our forefathers and our foremothers definitely didn't receive government assistance. Okay. But there's been a long history of Africans that came and studied in the United States and went back to their homelands and became very successful, i.e. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, is an alumnus of Lincoln University, contemporary of Malcolm X, Dr. John Heinrich Clark, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, and so forth. And he met with these brothers, and upon his inauguration as the first president of Ghana, he had the brothers come check him out in Accra. There was a time when I was a student at Tennessee State University. I worked at Meharry Medical College, and there was the old Meharry Hubbard Hospital. There was a former president of Malawi. Recall his name, Dr. Banda. is his name. And he was a graduate of University of Edinburgh in Scotland, and then he came to Meharry Medical College. There was also another guy from Malawi, Hastings Banda is his name, and Daniel Sharp Malibu was an anti-colonialist Christian missionary from Meharry. So there's a history of Africans coming to school in the United States and going home and becoming the upper crust leaders of their native lands. Okay? And also from Meharry was Dr. Robert Lee in 1956. He was a dentist. He immigrated to Ghana and set up a dental practice in Ghana. In my opinion, the whole notion of separating African Americans, African Caribbeans, Africans from the continent, whatever country they come from, is a psyop, is a psyop in order to divide us. Like I said, I lived in Cote d'Ivoire for 7 years. I traveled to Burkina Faso, Mali, Ghana, the Gambia, Senegal. And I was always treated with the highest level of dignity and respect by African people. I'm not going to say that there's not any friction and not any tension between African people, African Caribbeans, and continental Africans, because people are not monolithic. You got both good and bad. I'll never forget, a lady told me that in Gambia. Same here. Heard it from my grandma. Got good and bad people everywhere. But I think that it comes down to stereotypes. And I think that these stereotypes going into the future are only planted to divide us and to conquer us. Again, to say that African Americans, African Caribbeans, continental Africans, that we don't have anything in common is ridiculous. Even historians such as Melville Herskovitz talk about the Africanisms in our people, from the language. I think one of the German theologians would call it the Folkgeist, the spirit of our people. The way we move, the way we dance, our funeral rites. In every area of people activity, you will find commonalities between African people, African Caribbean people, and indigenous African people. So I'll be speaking on this subject extensively on my channel, but I wanted to get that in and have you to have something to think about. Help me to grow this channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Give me some feedback, whether you agree or whether you don't disagree, or whether you disagree. Like I say, we're not monolithic, and everybody has a right to their opinion. But, you know, let's just be respectful to one another and do it in a dignified way. Again, I'm saying that African people, African American people, FBA, whatever you want to call it, African Caribbeans, we're not monolithic. You're going to find good and bad. I tell you, you know, not every Jamaican going to be Bob Marley. You know, Peter Tosh, revolutionary spirit. Not every African American is going to be a Malcolm X or Dr. King. You know, not every African going to be a Kwame Nkrumah or Jomo Kenyatta or Nnamdi Azikiwe. So, in the face of white supremacy, you know, we're stronger together than we are divided. Again, like the video, subscribe to the video, comment to it, and let's just think about it. Let's talk about it. With that, I say peace.